Well, folks, we're back for another Titans card review, and I swear to God, I think we have the coolest Hearthstone card I have ever seen. And another legendary on top of that as well that does some pretty crazy stuff. So this is Ignis the Eternal Flame, and I absolutely love him. He is a 4-mana 2/4 neutral legendary battle cry. If you forged a card this game, craft a custom weapon. So we saw forge as the new keyword. That's where you can pull it over to your deck for 2 mana to upgrade it. And there's already some neutral forge, so everybody will have access to that. You have to spend a little bit of mana to activate Ignis, but when you do, this custom weapon is going to be completely insane. I'm going to walk you through how this works. So first off, you choose your base for your weapon. You can get a 1 mana 2/2, a 5 mana 3/4, or a 10 mana 5/6, which by the way is 30 damage in its own right. So kind of pick your mana cost, maybe like Runic Axe, for instance, on curve after your 4 mana Ignis could be the way to go. Then you're going to choose a trait, I think is what it was called in the reveal article, a trait for the weapon to have. So basically that is one of these 3 keywords, or, you know, a cleave, immune, etc. For instance, Wind Fury might be insane. Lifesteal could be nuts if you need some life gain, poisonous for removal, etc. And then finally, we're not done. You're not only just getting the trait, you're also going to get a special ability. And there are 5 different special abilities, and each of them will have a different numerical value depending on whether you took what your base weapon choice was. So there's kind of a 1 mana, 5 mana, and 10 mana version. Tier, Light of Tier, will give you either 2 armor, 4 armor, or 8 armor after your hero attacks. Chill of Hodir will have a death rattle that deals 1 to all enemies, 2 or 4. That's hitting face and minions, keep in mind. Wisdom of Freya, I have those in the wrong order, obviously, as you can see, but you'll either draw 3, 2, or 1 card. 3 is the 10 mana version, obviously. I'm sure you can figure that out. Pain of Jotun is going to deal 2 damage, 4 damage, or 6 damage on battle cry. And finally, Genius of Mimron is going to summon you a 2, 4, or 8 cost minion after you attack. So you're going to get to discover only from 3 choices for each of these, importantly. So you may not always get Wind Fury, for instance. You might get offered Poisonous, Lifesteal, and Immune. And then when you go to this one, you're only again going to get 3 of these choices. So you might get Armor, Death Rattle, and Summon, right? Or you might get Battle Cry, deal damage, draw a card, and Armor. It's just, you can't guarantee your weapon choice, basically, as a balancing consideration for the card. Otherwise, you might be able to do some crazy broken weapon every single time. There's going to be some hedges here where you're not going to get exactly what you want, but the average result still seems completely insane to me. I made like 3 example weapons here. Obviously, there's 1,000 more permutations. Not literally 1,000, I guess, but a bunch more permutations. I don't even know if these are the most broken, but they're just kind of the first ones I saw. So Runic Short Sword, you give the weapon Poisonous, and then it has Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all enemies, which means it's going to be a poisonous Death Rattle, which means it's a board clear in a 1-cost weapon, because you can take Poisonous here, then you take Chill of Hodir, step 1, Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all enemies. That's insane. Runic Axe here, it's Wind Fury, and after your hero attacks, summon a random 4-cost minion. So you play Hodir on 4, you Runic Axe on 5, you get to hit for 6, whether that's clearing up your opponent's board or hitting face, and you get to summon 2 4-drops as well. So you get this crazy board development, and of course just the threat of a weapon in itself. And then there's the Runic Axe, and with this one I gave it Wind Fury and deal 6 damage, so it's a 16 damage play that also still has another 20 damage on the back end. And that could obviously just be like a crazy big lethal setup, punching your opponent for 16, but obviously you can go for value as well, getting a bunch of 8-drops on the back of it, getting a bunch of life gain off the armor, just getting some reload here. You could draw, you know, if you got Wind Fury and draw cards, you could draw a ton of cards with Wisdom of Freya. Basically, however you slice this, you're going to get some absolutely crazy weapons and effects. Tons of life gain, board, removal, damage, resources. It's got a little bit of everything. And I think that makes this actually really good. Number one, yeah, of course, there's some setup in this, but you're just creating such a powerhouse of a weapon. And yeah, weapon removal exists, of course, but that's never stopped good weapons from being good before. And a lot of these, you're going to get the value on the first swing, especially if you get Wind Fury and get to proc 2 of these sort of after your hero attacks effects right away. You might be happy with just one swing of it getting something awesome out of it, or you might be able to get a death rattle to hedge against some of that weapon removal. So to me, this looks completely awesome. First off, just insanely cool to build my own weapon. I'm going to put this in like literally every single deck, but I also think it's actually got a lot of power potential as well. I don't know that strict aggro decks will be able to run this because they may not want to spend the mana to both forge and play a weak 4-drop, but I think anything that's a little bit mid-rangey or later that's just looking for a big value bomb sort of card that can create a win condition in its own right, just absolutely creating crazy stuff, Ignis is going to make sense for those sorts of decks. So even control decks will be happy to run this because it has so many defensive tool options in all of these various special abilities. So I think this card is awesome, insane, and super powerful as well. All right, so next up here, we've got Algalon the Observer. One might even say he's pondering that orb there. He is a 4-mana 4/4 with a battle cry. Replace your hero power with Algalon's Vision. So pretty crazy to get hero power replacement in neutral here. Algalon's Vision is a 1-mana hero power. It allows you to look at the top card of your opponent's deck, and then you may put it on the bottom of their deck. So you both get a little bit of information there about what they're going to draw, and then you get a choice. Am I going to let them keep this card, or am I going to tuck this away on the bottom of their deck? And ideally, right, you're hoping to hit some kind of big, awesome card, a win condition, a combo piece, a hero card, which we don't really have many hero cards in standard, but that sort of thing, this big awesome thing, and you're going to hide it away so that your opponent can't draw it. It's going to be at the bottom of their deck, and hopefully that allows you to net enough advantage because you're playing better cards than your opponent, and you hope that that wins you the game. Now, of course, sometimes you're just going to hit a bad card and you're going to say, oh, no, I'm not putting that on the bottom of your deck. I want you to draw that one. That's off curve. That's weak. That's not a win condition. And okay, cool. Keep that one. In which case, it'll mean you basically did nothing. You spent 1 mana on this hero power and you didn't change anything at all, but you're just going to be spending this mana basically trying to hit the good stuff at some stage. Now, it's interesting strategically because in any given deck of your opponents, you're going to have to kind of decide with some cards. They're not going to be like super obvious, the worst card of the deck and the best card of the deck. Sometimes they're going to be right in the middle. And you just say like, look, okay, this card's like, it's okay, it's sort of good, right? It's solid, but if I put this on the bottom of the deck, they might draw something awesome instead. In which case, you're going to have to decide what breakpoint where you want to cut it off. Like, am I cutting it off after the best 5 cards? I'm only shuffling down the best 5 cards, anything else they can keep, because if I take the 7th best card and I shuffle it down, they might draw the first best card instead, right? You've got to have some kind of mechanism here to make good decisions. Obviously there's a lot of variables there with game states, decks, a million things to calculate, but what that means at the end of the day is a lot of the times you're going to hit this button and it's basically going to do nothing, or in some cases perhaps even make your life worse unbeknownst to you at the time. So you've got this kind of major overhead. You've got this 4-mana card you got to play that sucks. You're not excited to play a 4-mana 4/4. Then you've got to keep hitting this hero power button every turn potentially, or most turns. You're going to want to weave this in or you wouldn't be playing it otherwise. And how often is it actually going to do something cool and beneficial and be disruptive? And are you willing to pay a 5-mana, 6-mana, 10-mana, 15-mana tax over the course of a game in order to do that? And then, of course, how easy is it for your opponent to disrupt that? Oh, they just play a dredge card and draw that card right away. Dredge plus draw means what your work was deleted immediately. So, like this perfect scenario where you disrupt the exact awesome thing, yes, it will happen from time to time, but you are paying a major price in the meantime. You are just running an otherwise pretty weak card, spending a ton of mana on this. And while there will certainly be decks that don't mind flexing in 1 mana, a slow deck that's Got a lot of spare mana floating around, not a lot to do. Like, yeah, okay, I'll spend 1 mana, but a lot of those decks actually value their hero power too. A big control warrior is going to want to armor up. A priest is going to want to use some healing there, and Algalon's Vision is a downside. You're losing that ability to do something good and active and fixed and known for this option that's not necessarily even always going to be super beneficial and could even really backfire for you. So in other words, this card's pretty complicated in its execution and like strategy, and I don't even think the payoff is that great or consistent. In fact, it's kind of risky sometimes, and man, you're paying a lot to do that. So what I think that means for me is that this card is probably relegated to meme status, fun status, disruption decks. Messing with your opponent is going to be awesome, but I think most competitive decks will have to leave this one aside. It probably won't see much play. There are a couple little angles that are worth keeping in mind, of course. A cheap hero power could feed into some kind of inspire style effect we could get down the road, just like, okay, having a 1 mana hero power is more beneficial for whatever reason. There could be more top of deck card synergies. We've actually got one in standard now with the Plagiarizer, the dual class pirate from Priest and Rogue. This guy, as I'm pulling him up here, like this, you could actually use Algalon's Vision to scout out what card you're gonna get a copy of, but I don't think that's very good, right? Like that's a lot of work to just get a copy of a card in your opponent's deck. So just like, oh, that card sucks, I'm gonna wait to play the Plagiarizer later. That's not a game plan that makes any sense. But if you got enough of those sort of effects, maybe Algalon's Vision gets a little better, but I still think that's super unlikely. So in other words, I don't really see a lot of paths forward for this card. I think it looks pretty clunky, pretty awkward, pretty risky to run, and that means probably not super good. Ignis the Eternal Flame is a 5-star card. Algalon the Observer is a 2-star card. And there you go, folks. This expansion is shaping up to be one of my most hyped Hearthstone expansions ever. I love the theme. I freaking love cards like this with a billion different things going on. I can't wait to play this one. Curious to hear your thoughts on Ignis, the Eternal Flame, and Algalon. Share those in the comments below. Thanks so much as always for watching, and until next time, game on.